All right, we're live. I am going to wait a minute and see if anyone shows up. If not, we'll
Mhm.
continue.
Okay.
This will be saved on YouTube and will be put onto my IGTV as well. Actually, we have 6 viewers in already. Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Guys.
All right, so welcome to Chair. This is a platform built to increase awareness for women's health. Today, I have a very special conversation here with very special women on mental health and wellness. I'm really excited to introduce our panel because these are amazing women, and I think we're going to have such an amazing dialogue today. So, our first guest is Shakendra Fennell. She is a 27-year-old singer, actor, and performer raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She graduated from the University of Central Oklahoma with a bachelor's in fine arts. She has traveled the world performing in theater and continues to secure roles in film and commercial roles. Recently competing in her first pageant, where she placed top 21, it has taught her to be more intentional. Hi, Ken.
Hey.
We have Carissa Pert. Carissa, did I say your last name right?
Here.
Here. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's fine.
She is a 26-year-old Brooklyn native. She's an advocate, mentor, motivational writer, and founder of Little Inspo. She is a graduate from Liberty University with a master's of arts in communication. Currently, she works as a public servant at the Manhattan DA's office with victims of crime and abuse. Her passion is to spread positivity to humanity through her words. Next is Tendrina Alexander. She is a fellow Haitian American New York resident who graduated from the University of Albany with degrees in communication and journalism. She currently works as the district representative for a member of Congress, which has further deepened her love for serving her community and impacting the world. She currently uses her social media platforms, YouTube channel, and local cable show to empower others to create change and encourage them to live their lives authentically. And last but not least is Leanne Webb. She is a 24-year-old from Long Island, New York. She is a teacher and behavior therapist specializing in children with autism. She has graduated from Buffalo State with a good degree in early childhood education. She plans to obtain her master's degree in literacy. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today and having such an imperative conversation.
Mhm.
Over the past few years and historically, women have made enormous contributions to the ongoing fight for social, racial, and economic justice. But despite these efforts, true social justice will remain incomplete, especially if we ignore the disparities in mental health. So before we get into the details of that, I would like to know from you guys' perspective, what is your definition of mental health and why is it so important? I'll just throw that one on the table, whoever wants to answer first.
Okay, in my notes, I put,
Mhm.
I had put like an overall state of being, like how you are emotionally, physically, and like how you're able to like cope and be productive through literally like your daily life stressors.
Yeah, that's good.
Anyone else want to add on?
No, I
I
love.
agree. Oh, go ahead.
No, I said I love that, and I think
Mhm.
also when we think about just health in general, specifically when it comes to physical health, it's easier for us to kind of think of all the things that are encompassed in that, right? With is outside of just obviously feeding ourselves correctly
Mhm.
and being healthy. It's also being active. It's also doing all these things. So kind of thinking of mental health as a multifaceted thing as well. It's not just um, you know
Right.
being sane,
There's
right?
a
Yeah.
spectrum,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Exactly. It definitely deals with our emotional, social, and even just our mental health and, how we think, feel, and act upon certain things. I feel like that's what it has to do with as well.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I also look for it as a perspective of recognizing mental health and knowing that there's a space for it by recognizing it and acknowledging why is it
Exactly.
important. So
Yeah.
that's my own definition from what I draw from the overall aspect of mental health in my personal point of view.
That's good.
Totally. So, me, for example, working at the height of COVID, and while it's still going on during its rise, it can be extremely overwhelming. There are definitely moments where I am so overwhelmed where I have to go into the break room or I'll go into the bathroom and I'll kind of just do some breathing practices just to remind myself to be present and to remind myself that I'm capable. But in those very rare moments where I don't feel that I can complete the task at hand, I'm not afraid of taking a break, calling out, or just saying, you know what, I can't do this. Can someone else help me? So, what are some daily stressors that affect your mental health, and how do you guys practice management?
I can take this one first. So one thing that I'm learning about adulting that I always tell all my friends is that I'm constantly getting my life together. Like I'm getting my life together. I got to take today to just get my life together. And what I've learned as I'm just embracing adulthood, right, is just that there's always something that needs to be done. Like there's always something that needs to be done. And as somebody who comes from a really kind of high performative stressor kind of household, I'm sure I know you probably, Maxine, can relate specifically just because of the Haitian culture. There I always feel like I'm not doing enough. Like there's just always something for me to do. There's always something that I can be doing better. And then it's hard for me to kind of take breaks or allow myself to kind of completely sit and rest. And I think one thing I've been trying to focus on this year is just acknowledging that rest is a part of our overall mental health. It's a part of allowing us to kind of fully be present, but also fully act in our capacity, in as much capacity as we can, right? In 100% capacity. If we're constantly going, if I'm constantly going, and I'm trying to just do the next thing, then I'm never going to be able to do everything excellently. And so kind of just checking in with myself every day, picking what priorities are for that day, and also reminding myself that, if you want to be excellent, you also have to kind of give yourself a break. You know what I mean?
For sure.
100%.
Yeah. I can really like piggyback on that because I know for me, I try to get like so much done. Like I feel like I'm literally doing the most on a daily basis. Sometimes I find that like what I'm doing is not excellent, or like everything is not excellent because I'm doing too much at once. I'm not prioritizing them properly. Like I know for me right now, two of my biggest stresses is probably my career and my social life, and like balancing the two of those. And honestly, like especially being a performer, and I chose this life, so I did this for myself, but like being a performer and like literally always going out for the next job. Like I feel like every day I'm waking up trying to figure out like what my next job is, even though like I literally have a job next weekend, but like I have to figure out what's next after that. And then also like answering text messages, and it sounds like so small, but like
No.
keeping up with all of that and like trying to like be there for people. Like I'm like that kind of girl that's always like trying to be there for someone, and like also not taking care of myself in that. So like just trying to prioritize like myself and my career and my social life and being excellent in every discipline is like biggest things, especially during this pandemic.
Yeah, finding balance as an adult. What is that? What is
What is that? But Jackendra, how are you balancing that? How are you managing that stress?
Well, I would say like how you were talking about, like taking breaks, literally walking away, not being afraid to say, hey, I can't do this today. Hey, I actually can't FaceTime you tonight. Like literally like the smallest things, like literally taking time for myself to like check back in with myself. Because sometimes I could be going and going and going, and I have no idea what's going on with me mentally until like I'm in my room by myself and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
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 I think just being very conscious of like how I feel throughout the day
Mhm.
and saying no. That's like one of my biggest things so far right now.
That's
Is
something
Yeah.
that I'm practicing actually.
because I'm
Yeah.
so good at it. So,
Yeah.
and I'm the kind of person who thinks that like I feel like I can do everything. without any help. So like learning to say no and being okay with not being able to just do everything all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, for me, it would be my job because before I was working for a non-for-profit before I started working for the assistant district attorney's office. And in the non-for-profit field, they're very big on mental health. So when
Yeah.
I switched over, it was like a huge shocker for me because I'm like, I'm used to taking care of myself and my priorities. My job does that for me before, but
Yeah.
then now I'm in this space where it's more hectic and mental health is not a thing that they really prioritize that
Mhm.
much. So for me, it's like difficult, especially because we're about to open up actually full time again in a few weeks from now. That's going to be another like rush of stressor for me on a day-to-day basis. But for me, I agree with Maxine. Some days I take my mental health days if I have to call out, or if I just have to take a break or just go outside to like refresh my mind. But it's kind of difficult for me when I look back in terms of transitioning into something that you used to before where mental health was a priority and then now it's not that much of a
Right.
priority. So I don't know if you guys experience that or have the same, experience currently.
I actually am currently experiencing that because
Mhm.
in the medical field, we have such a shortage on nurses, on staff,
Yeah.
period.
Mhm.
So they're kind of like implementing these new rules where they're trying so hard to get us to work because they
Mhm.
don't have anyone to work. But it's overwhelming, and when you have to say no, they make it seem as if you said the worst thing in the world. So
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
it's very I'm practicing how to stay firm, and that's also why this conversation needs to be normalized, because we
Exactly.
are at an age where we're working with a generation that doesn't understand what mental health is.
Mhm.
That's for mental
Yeah.
health, they're like, what are you talking about? So I think that it's important to have these discussions because I don't think you're ever too old or too young to unlearn and relearn better ways
Exactly.
to do things.
I agree.
No, you're definitely right, Maxine.
Yeah.
I also think our generation is very like we are also kind of just coming to this new realization. I think we
Mhm.
grew up
Yes.
very much like hustle, 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 mindset. Like even like you were saying, Shakendra,
Mhm.
we're always kind of like striving to do something. Like we're always kind of striving to get
Yeah.
things done. And all over social media, we see it too. Like hustle never stop.
Yep.
I never see like, you know what I mean? And we have to kind of condition ourselves to think
Mhm.
outside of that and not feel like failures when we're not. That's why it hurts. Or why it feels difficult to say no to our bosses when we need time
Mhm.
for ourselves, or why we feel like kind of guilty when it's like, oh, I need to take this day off, or like, no, I can't work extra today, like I need to go home. And it feels like people are looking at us like, oh,
Yeah.
so it is definitely it's a whole new thing to learn.
But
Yeah.
still, I would give us
Definitely.
personally credit because I feel like we're the generation of an awakeness with
Yes.
things around us, and we're not afraid to choose what's best for ourselves. I feel like the thin line where I feel like it's challenges is when I look back at my parents' generation and trying to teach them things to unlearn some of their behaviors and taking mental health into priority is the challenge, especially in the work environment, because all of my bosses, they're pretty much within my parents' generation. And then you
Right.
have a fresh outlook, which is different.
Yeah.
And when you say no, like you mentioned, you feel guilty, but it's just like I have to prioritize myself
Yeah.
first in order for me to show up and like be my best self at work or to support the people that need
Yeah,
that help,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then they throw the shade like those millennials.
Exactly.
They don't know. Back in my day, like okay.
Exactly.
So, ladies, we just wrapped up Miss New York USA. I can't even believe that it's already been 2 weeks.
I know.
It is one of the biggest and most competitive states to compete in. For those who are not aware, oh, I think Leanne went out. All right, let's give her a minute. But yeah, it's one of the most competitive states to compete in. And as positive, fulfilling, and productive as our experience has been, it was also very stressful, both to prepare. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Leanne just went out. I'm gonna wait for her to come back in. It was very stressful, both to prepare and compete in. So, what were some of your most stressful moments, and what advice would you give to future competitors? So, what were some of your most stressful moments, and what advice would you give to future competitors? So, what were some of your most stressful moments, and what advice would you give to future competitors? So, what were some of your most stressful moments? 1 minute, guys. Are we good? No. Is everyone here?
Yep.
1 minute. Can you guys unmute your mics?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. Can you guys unmute your mic? What is okay, there we go. Okay. So I'm sorry. Can you guys unmute your mic? What is okay, there we go. Okay. So I'm sorry. Can you guys unmute your mic? What is okay, there we go. Okay. So I'm sorry. Can you guys unmute your mic? Okay, there we go. Okay. So I'm sorry. Can you guys unmute your mic? Okay, there we go. Okay. So I'm sorry. Can you guys unmute your mic? Okay, there we go. I'm sorry, guys. I'm having some difficulty on my end. Okay. Can everyone hear me? Unmute your mics. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. Can everyone hear me?
No.
Unmute your mics. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. Can everyone hear me?
No.
Unmute your mics. I'm sorry, guys.
Everyone, make sure that this is only open on one tab, because I think
Yeah.
somebody has it open on one tab and that's going.
Mine is on one.
I think mine is on one. Yeah.
1 minute, guys. Sorry for the technical issues. I think we're okay. Are we good?
I think so.
I think we're good now.
Okay. So yes, I'm sorry. We just wrapped up Miss New York, one of the most biggest and most competitive states to compete in. 169 girls. As positive, fulfilling, and productive as our experience has been, it was also very stressful, both to prepare and compete in. What were some of your most stressful moments, and what advice would you give future competitors to manage that stress?
Personally, my most stressful moment of trying to prepare for the actual pageant was the interview portion. Granted that it went by like this, and it was literally talking to like a group of people just like you guys. And I'm just like, I was so nervous stepping in, but thank God we had Crystal outside easing everybody's nerves. So that helped a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't like interviews. I don't like interviews at all. And
They're
yeah, they actually asked me that in the room as well. And they actually laughed when I told them, yeah, the interview portion was the hardest part to prepare for. So my advice to future contestants would be to not sound robotic with your answers, because they don't want that, but it's more so be yourself.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath.
Exactly.
It's not as bad as you think it is, and the 2 minutes go by so fast.
Yeah.
So even if you have to maybe even book a coach if it's your first time, so you can get a feel of the questions and what it's actually like, then definitely do that. Maybe 1 or 2 sessions, and then just go from there. But don't be robotic. Be yourself.
Right.
Yeah. I agree.
Anyone else?
So something that really stressed me out, like literally, it had to be like a week or so, maybe not even a week before the pageant. But I let social media get to me, and I think I texted Maxine about this.
Yeah.
I was stressed, and also it was also like 5 minutes before like one of my last coachings. So like I was like excited, and then like I get on Instagram and I notice like this fan page. We all know like everybody has like their fan pages, like it's a thing. I'm brand new to pageant, so I didn't know that that was a thing. So like if I were to see my picture on somebody's page that I didn't know who it was, like that was like exciting to me or whatever. But it just was, 'cause I'm like, I didn't know me. But I was scrolling one day on one of the pages and they had created, and people do this all the time, but they had created like a top, I don't know, maybe top 10 or top 15, like their prediction or whatever. And I was literally like in tears. I was so upset because there was literally no Black girls on there.
Oh wow.
And mind you, like this page, they had shared like a few Black girls on there. Like, you know, here's blah, 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 blah. Look at her. She's so pretty. But once they got to like choosing the tops, like there was literally, and I mean like nobody was brown at all. And I was like, okay, so I think that just ultimately made me feel like, why am I going to do this? Like if I'm gonna go there and not be noticed, or not even just me, us. When I say I'm talking about all of us. So I was like, why are we even going if we're not gonna be noticed? But then like at the end of the day, they're not the judges. They're not really anyone that we know, you know. And it's just like their opinions, just like we have opinions with award shows, we have opinions on who's gonna be, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know, that just really broke me down. So I think that my advice to people who want to like enter into pageants is to probably like mute those pages a couple of weeks before the pageant. Like don't be on social media comparing yourself to like anyone, even any other contestant. And I will say that like there were some contestants I admire, and I literally had to like put them on mute because I was like, this is making me feel insecure.
Yeah.
So it was like, let me like step back for a second. So I would ultimately say, out of all of like the little notes I took, I would say that the fan pages probably put those things on mute before going to the competition.
Yeah.
And also, and know that that literally means nothing, because then we got to the top and we had Black girls in the top. Carissa was 10. So, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't see her on any of the pages with the predictions. And she was there where she deserved to be. So just keep that in mind when you are competing, like, quiet the noise, which is those pages.
Yep.
Yeah, I will piggyback off of that because I had, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Oh, you could go ahead. You started.
Thank you so much. It's so hard with the delay, but I will piggyback literally off of exactly what Kendra just said, because that was actually an issue that I had too. I found, you know, I think everything happens for a reason. Every experience. And as I'm reflecting on the pageant experience and what I took away from it, I really have seen that I had a really hard time, a difficult time, just getting my mind to a good mental place. And I think that's something that everyone should be aware of as they're preparing for a pageant, especially if it's your first one. Just as much as you're training for your interview, like Leanne said, and you're training your walk and you're, you know, figuring out what you want to wear, how you want to look, you also want to prepare your mind, like train your mind.
So important.
Yourself, you know, when I had the same moment that Shakendra had weeks before, I'm seeing all these blogs come out and I'm seeing all these faces come out. And, you know, my last name is Alexandra, so my headshot was one of the first on the pages. And when I never saw my headshot on any of these pages, I'm like, oh my God, my headshot is terrible. Like, you hate me. Like, oh my gosh, you know, like I just started spiraling really ridiculously out of control, where I started telling myself, like, you know, I don't have a talent, I don't have a good story, I can't measure up to these girls, I don't have this, I don't have that. And I really just allowed that for a moment to get the best of me. And, you know, thank God for, you know, community and just being able to kind of like voice your expression out loud. and then you have people that are speaking the truth to you, and you kind of get to like, build yourself back up. And one thing I took away from this pageant is that can speak kind things to yourself, and you are much more worthy than you think you are. Social
Exactly.
media and comparison and all these other things will have you thinking that you're not worthy and you're not allowed to be where you are, but you're absolutely worthy. And so I think just that was probably really the hardest part for me, is really training my mental capacities to tell myself, you're worthy of being here. You're worthy of sharing the stage with all these fabulous women. You two are smart. You two are capable. You two are able to, make good things happen for Miss New York USA. And so I'm really grateful to that experience, because I'm definitely going to focus on that from now on, talking nicely to myself.
Exactly. Personally, for me, it was the standard of beauty, if that makes sense. I don't know if you guys had any of that in your head while you were preparing. Originally, I had lost my hair in February because of a mistake I made. So I had to go bald. And at that time, I'm like, I can't enter a pageant. Like, I don't look like how I would normally, do on a daily basis. And for me, I had a hard time struggling with that. And then once my hair started to grow back, and I'm like, you know what, this short look is actually not bad. Let me just go and just represent myself. There's so many women who, competed with their natural hair, and maybe I could be a role model for like other girls. So that was something that I was struggling with, how I was going to be perceived. But I would say to anyone, like if you're entering a pageant, a support system is so important, because those people do pick you up when you don't feel your best, or when you feel like you need advice, or if you need things that, additional support in terms of getting stuff for your pageant. Those are some people that you could reach out to, such as your family, your friends. That is important to take you throughout this whole journey, especially mentally. That's what helped me to stay positive and tonight not give up on, just competing at Miss New York USA. So I hope, like anyone out there, if you're watching this, have a good support system just in anything that you do. And remember that you can't do life alone. You need people to help you, to build you back up when you're not your best. So, yeah.
That is absolutely so true. And it kind of reels me right into the next question of why is community so important to have? At Miss New York, we're here today because of community. We were able to build so many friendships, whether they were personal, whether they're business, whether, however you guys decided to network, you guys came out with something. So how did community assist you during your pageant, and how is community assisting you in your daily life?
In regards to the pageant, I love that we were able to, well, most of us were able to meet up with each other prior to it. And even friends that didn't meet up, we were able to talk throughout the group chat. And we all, for the most part, had the same questions, the same concerns, the same problems, this, that with the shoes, this, that. So it's just like, okay, I'm not the only one. So you guys made me feel 10 times better about a lot of stuff. So in that way, I can definitely thank you guys. Shout out to watching us in the group chat. But other than that, just like at the actual pageant, having like Charisma as a roommate, went to school with her. We didn't really talk because we were both doing separate things, but having her as a roommate and having her there to support me and vice versa was truly one of the best things. And then we were able to, part ways during the pageant, make other friends, other girls that were going to support us and help us throughout the pageant, especially since it was our first pageant.
Right.
Yeah. For me, I had a little bit of different experience because I didn't get to make it to the orientation. So in my head, I was like, oh my God, I've not met any of the girls. I don't know what it's going to be like when I show up. Who am I going to make friends with? I don't know who my roommate is. None of that. I was just like, and then how I got connected was Tiffany. I met her at a Community to Crown when we had a walking class, and we got connected. So that made me feel a little better. And then when Shakendra added me on Instagram, I was like, at least I knew someone. And then other girls started adding me. I was just super happy just to have that community. And then when I show up, I was like, wow, like I was just inspired by everyone that I ran into, their stories, what they do. It just inspired me to like work harder. And I just wanted to be around people, like young women who were like that. So for me, like I still reflect back on the motto, it takes a village to raise a child. Like that's how it felt when I met all of you guys. You guys just really inspired me. So yeah.
Oh, I love you guys.
One of the reasons why I entered this pageant was literally for the community. Like I knew
Yeah.
that I wanted to make friends with women, like-minded women, and I
Yeah.
have love, like girlfriends. So like I really was like needing that, especially in this pandemic and literally being away from like everyone. I was like, I really need like community. And like in
Mhm.
theater, I'm used to like going and doing shows and like my cast becomes like my family and that's like a thing. But like with the pandemic, like I haven't been in a show to have that. So I started to feel kind of isolated. And in a way, like that was me doing it to myself. So with the pageant, it was also a way of me like stepping out there and finding new community. And then once I did, I think, well, first of all, my first friend was Maxine. And I walked into the orientation and I saw her sitting there, and I think I texted like three of my friends, and I was like, "Well, I already found a friend. She doesn't even know me, but we're gonna be friends." And yeah, so it's just, I think support in general, like in pageants, like is all necessary. Even if you're like me and you think that you're Superwoman and you can do everything by yourself, like at the end of the
Yeah.
it really makes a difference when you have community and like somebody to lean on. So
I
I
agree
agree.
with everything you guys are saying. I think one thing that I expected for the pageant was that, you know, you hear all these horror stories about like the cattiness and how everyone is kind of just like out to get one another. And I think I
Mhm.
expected that with the pageant. And even at orientation, while it was a very enlightening time, you know, we're educated, you don't really know what everyone's mindset is. So sometimes you can get the vibe that like, you know, people are just there, depending on who you interact with. 'Cause there are girls who are very much like, I'm here one reason and one
Yeah.
reason. So I was exactly like everyone's energy when I got to the when we got to pageant week. And I was just so thoroughly grateful that that was not the case at all. You know, we all met each other, we all vibed off each other. I remember Maxine when I had just gotten to the pageant and I like went and signed my name on the interview sheet. And I turned back around to go back to where our dressing rooms were, and I saw your face, and you were just so like full of life and full of joy, and just so happy to see me. And I was so happy to see you and see like a friendly face that just was rooting. We were rooting for one
Mhm.
another, you know. And so
Exactly.
that was so encouraging. And even outside of our community, I think it's so important for us to also highlight the community support that we got from home. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
if you guys are aware, but I personally signed up for the pageant literally weeks before the pageant.
Mhm.
Like the week
Same.
before orientation is when I was like, all right, this is it. Like I'm all in. And the incredible support that I got from my community at home
Mhm.
literally increased my faith like no other. I like I kind of said before, I just had gotten to a place where I really was not believing in myself. And, you know, the support of your community really pushes you to believe in yourself more than you did before when you realize how
Mhm.
much faith other people have in you, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, community members, they see something in you that you don't see yourself. Like we look in the mirror all the time and we're usually only pointing out our flaws. Um,
Mhm.
and what we can do better, right? What we can
True.
change, how we would be happier with ourselves. And people in your community, they see the things in you that are good, that they love, that they want to support, that they want to push forward. And so I just love that aspect of community, being able to turn to my community and feel, you know what, like you can do this. You know what I mean? Because you
Mhm.
have the people behind you, not necessarily because you're gonna win. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But because people, you know, people are, you know, there to catch you if you fall, you're gonna be okay. You know, I
Yeah.
love that aspect of community. So that's a great question, Maxine.
That's awesome, guys.
Yeah.
So, in the Black and Brown community, we have made significant progress in mental health care. However, of course, there is still so much difficulty acknowledging psychological issues like depression and anxiety, things that we deal with, whether, you know, it's simple or more complicated. We do our best to discuss health concerns such as breast cancer, HIV, hypertension, and most recently, COVID-19. Why is mental health stigmatized, and how can we change the narrative?
I think I can start with this one. So I was raised by my grandmother, so like that's a generation above like everyone's parents. And it's almost as if I don't know, she's still catching on, but I feel like our in our culture we have been taught to be the strong, resilient,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
everything's gonna be fine. You got to keep pushing through
Yeah.
the people. And I know that's just the way I was raised, also, just because I was raised by my grandmother. And the older I got, that's when I started to like realize like what all of these things were. And also, I have people in my family who, in my generation, like who suffer from depression. I have terrible anxiety. And growing up and dealing with that and being around people, mind you, love my grandma, but like having to like express that to her and her not understand it, it was just always like a pull and tug thing. And so I think that it's just something that we've been taught in our community. Like it's from the beginning of time. I just feel like we've never had time to really sit back and think about our mental health because
Yeah.
we're always doing something. And it seems like we kind of still have that mentality, but luckily, like with our generation, like we're starting to like break the stigma of that and start doing things like this, like we're talking about it, and people are becoming more aware. So I think that we just have to keep talking about it until it sticks.
Yeah.
Like I still talk to my grandma about it, and she still acts like she don't know what I'm talking about. But it's going to stick because we're going to keep on talking about it until it does.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it definitely needs to be highlighted more in schools.
Yes.
I did not learn about mental health enough in school
Yeah.
for me to want to make the strides that I'm doing now back when I was a little bit younger.
That is so true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we don't realize that we even are so uneducated or unaware of it until it's too late. Like almost
Mhm.
until we're experiencing like crippling anxiety, like I deal with as well, Shakendra, or just different things that might happen in our lives to kind of trigger, just a mental health crisis.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
when we're kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm not paying attention to this enough. I also think that historically, people of color really we were not allowed we didn't have the capacity to even focus on our mental health, like we see stories all the time of even Black mothers who could not even form emotional bonds and had to mentally train themselves to not love their children because their kids were going to be ripped away from them, or because they were forced to kind of be the source of food for other babies that were not their own. So we really we genetically, I want to say, or culturally, I don't know, have just been trained to not
Yeah.
able to prioritize what our mental health is, like what we
Yeah.
think, what we feel, or are we good, are we not good, because we were just forced to kind of perform. And so I'm so grateful, like you guys are saying, Maxine, that you're hosting this conversation, and that it's clear that our generation is very determined to break the chain, right? Break the curse and break the generational cycle of kind of just go, do. Don't even think to check in. And ultimately, it's just going to make us a well-rounded generation, well-rounded humans, and it'll be better for our future generations too. Like we're going to be able to prioritize that for them and create a space where they will feel the permission to be healthy in a mental space,
Exactly. Changing the narrative for our young Black women coming up. Because
that.
like you guys are saying, like, we are subjected to being strong by default, not by choice. And that's crippling to us in so many ways, especially again, like in healthcare, Black women are being ignored because, Black women they're supposed to have a higher pain tolerance and things of that sort. So it,
Wow.
being able to change the narrative is going to be so, so essential for, our nieces, our nephews, and our future children. So speaking of, all this being strong, self-care, what is self-care and why is it an important practice? especially when we're talking about something like this?
Yeah. For me personally, self-care is, I have two aspects of self-care. There's a physical self-care that you do for yourself when you want, and then there's an inner work of self-care, meaning that inner work that you do with yourself when you're not your best, probably, or like recognizing some of the challenges that you're facing, whether they're good or bad, or like digging in to say that, you know what? I need to work on myself. I need help with my inner being. And that could be like even through therapy. I have a therapist. Anyone out there, if you have a therapist, yup. See, like that helped me to recognize some of the things and having honest conversation with myself that I may not want to say, like, okay, I need to
Yeah.
do this, but then I'm passing it on. But then that helps me to be well. And I feel like when I'm well on the inside, and I recognize that I need inner work, I can be my best on the outside. And that's something I think I want us to own in general as women, and then just as a society, doing inner self work as a self care, because that is a self care aspect for us to become better in terms of our mental health purposes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very big on
Mhm.
pampering yourself as well. And I do agree that like internally, like you have to have it going on inside for it to look
Yeah.
like anything on the outside.
Mhm.
But I do think that like, especially for me, like it's nothing like taking a hot bath. And also with us being on the go all the time, like we don't ever have time to like actually sit down and take a bath. But when you do have time and you do it, it really does make a difference.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like just doing all sorts of things. Like I like getting facials, like whatever. I will pamper myself to death, like going out to eat, like anything. But I
love
do agree that like sometimes, especially if I'm feeling down or if I'm having like some weird anxiety or something, getting out of the house is important for me. Getting fresh air. Because if I just sit up in my room, like all of that is kind of like I don't even know how to explain it. Like I feel like I'm like trapped in my own like thoughts and
Yeah.
Yeah.
so getting out and remembering that like life is still going on outside of that, but also acknowledging what's going on inside of you, um, helps me a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like one thing that definitely helps me a lot to piggyback off of what Ken just said is I love to read affirmations. So I probably follow like 20 of those Instagram pages and I'm always reading them. I have my post notifications on because that just helps me go about my day sometimes when you're just not having the best day. And then I'll see We the Urban. I love their posts.
Yeah.
Absolutely love them. You'll see me repost some of my stories all the time on Twitter, whatever. And then there's I think it's Women on Top. Love them. So affirmations.
Mhm.
Personally, I like to go for a hike, and I always have my phone on Do Not Disturb just to keep,
Yeah.
mind.
That's good. I love that. I love that last tip because sometimes we just make ourselves way too accessible to people, and to kind of like
Mhm.
self-care is like literally taking control of your space, and
Yeah.
just not allowing people to have so much access to you. So I love that one.
Like the big disconnect. Like I'm gonna disconnect and come back, but don't feel
Yeah.
it.
Self-care for me also recently has been giving myself permission to kind of feel, because I think sometimes we don't give ourselves the time to do that, right? One thing we've been talking about is that like we're a generation of just go, go, go. And we as women, especially who just competed in the Miss New York USA pageant, like obviously we all have it going on, right? But we don't give ourselves permission to kind of feel hurt or feel sad or feel depressed or feel hormonal or feel just like feel. So I think just checking in with myself and allowing myself to have a different just capacity of emotions and learning what those are, learning the different words for them. There's more than just happy, sad, mad. I think that's been a type of self-care I've been trying to focus on a lot more. But I definitely want to prioritize more. I need to get on the Shakendra level and just be like pamper myself. Just like we don't.
You got to take care of that body. Like I promise you, like I am so serious about like my skin and my hair. Like those are like a big deal to me, and they really do affect, like when my hair is not done, like it's kind of all over for me.
Yeah.
Like, just go way under my bed. Like it's really the end of the world. Those things for me, they just really make a difference in how I feel on the inside. They really do.
Love
And
that.
not for anyone else, but like literally for myself. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys kind of described how self-care is also another spectrum. There's so many different ways to take care of yourself physically,
Absolutely.
internally, mentally. There's just so many ways. And regardless of how you're doing it as long as it's intentional.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also, I think that that's another reason why a lot of people may misunderstand it when you are taking care of yourself and they kind of associate that with being selfish.
Mm.
And you just kind of have to just let them have their moment and continue to do you and not feel guilty about taking care of yourself.
But it's okay to be selfish with yourself. Because,
sometimes it is.
Yeah, if you're not like your best self, how are you going to show up for everyone in your life?
Exactly.
You're there literally helping people, but then you're not taking care of you. What happens when you can't take care of yourself anymore? So you have
Can't
to
pour from an
put yourself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So guys, I think we kind of went over everything. I'm gonna throw this last question out there is why is it so important to advocate for mental health awareness? Even if you're not an avid mental health awareness advocate on your platforms, why is it important just to continue this conversation and have this dialogue?
I can't remember who said it, but someone spoke about how we don't pay attention to it until it's too late.
Mhm.
And I think that's major because I feel like the reason why we have to keep talking about this and making sure people are educated and like know what it is because like we don't want to wait until like our whoever is depressed and is really going through something to actually pay attention to it. We just I don't know. I think it's just whoever said it, like it was pretty spot on. That's my answer.
Yeah,
No, you're right, Shakendra. And I'm just speaking on previous careers that I've had in the past. I feel like you never know what someone's really going through. So it's good to know the warning signs.
Yes.
They might not even recognize it themselves that they're going through X, Y, and Z and they need help. So if you can recognize that yourself and be able to educate others about it, that's definitely beneficial towards everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, I have something so random to say, but it's gonna make sense. Okay. So with the Batman movies, the threat in those movies, just historically, kind of always reflects, or the enemy in those movies. So like the Joker in the movie always kind of reflects whatever the biggest threat to society is at the time. So, for example, with the Dark Knight series, the Joker was always working in like terrorism. So, after 9/11, that was the biggest threat to the country at the time. The biggest threat to society at the time was terrorism. And recently, with the Joker movie that came out, we saw that he was a mentally ill person, right? And I think the message behind that was that mental health is the biggest threat to our society right now. And we see that all over the news. Whenever something terrible happens, that person always has some type of mental illness that they're dealing with. And I think that we need to just continue to raise the conversation on this, like expand the platform for this conversation so that, like Shakendra was saying, it's not after the fact that we're talking about it or highlighting it. And just so that our society can just function better as a whole as well, because when you're mentally not good, you literally cannot fulfill anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. For me personally, I think advocacy in general, especially with mental health, always set the tone for change for a generation. And when we do speak up about, even if we're starting small now and spreading that awareness, think about the long-term 10-year decade, how that will have an effect on a new generation. But I think also breaking the stigma and teaching, our younger boys or girls as they come up, to take that as a priority, mental health.
Also breaking the stigma.
Yeah. And but also we are just creating this space, like I said, and setting the tone for a new generation to continue that work and prioritizing mental health
That's so
on a whole for all of us in general.
so good. Making them more aware. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mental health also, sorry, I feel like it affects so many other aspects of our health as well. I think it was Leanna that said it earlier. You know, it impacts our emotional health, it impacts our physical health. Like if we're not well mentally, you can overeat, you can undereat,
Oh yeah.
not work out, you know what I mean? Not be active, you're staying at home all the time and you feel lethargic. So I think as we continue to just increase the importance of mental health, our younger generations too will just be all encompassing, just aware of themselves in an all encompassing way, you know, how checking in with themselves emotionally, giving distance, you know, before they kind of get into any types of altercation. I really just think it has a multifaceted effect.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was amazing, ladies. Thank you guys so much for joining us live. You guys are so knowledgeable. All of your perspectives were amazing. And I thank you for this conversation. It was necessary. And it doesn't end here, of course. I hope that you guys continue this dialogue with others because it's just it's imperative to continue talking about mental health because it affects us, whether we notice it, whether we acknowledge it or not.
Yeah.
So we have a few people in here. If anyone wants to ask any questions, if you guys have any comments, any opinions,
That would
it's
be great.
welcome. Yeah.
We'd love some questions.
Also, thank you, Maxine, for this
Exactly.
platform and for inviting us to have this conversation. You're just awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And all the viewers who are watching, hi.
I know. Thank you,
Ask
everyone.
us questions if you can.
Yeah.
Opinions, questions, comments, concerns.
Right.
Yeah.
The vulnerability and honesty is necessary and beautiful. Yep.
Someone said, I'm here for the hikes. So, Leanne, you're
We
for
have a hike, Leanne.
group hike.
I can't see none of that because I'm on my phone.
Yeah, I was about to say, how do you see?
I just realized I can see all the comments.
Oh,
Are you on your phone too, Ken?
no, I'm on my laptop, but I see.
Oh, okay.
Oh, y'all are so brave. Oh, guys.
I love that this is a conversation. It makes it easier for everyone else to know that they are not alone and what they are going through is real. Of course, definitely.
Of course,
That's
definitely.
the purpose.
Oh, Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Oh, Andrea's here too. Hey, Drea.
Hey, Casey.
I can't see none of that.
Hey, Patty. I heard you.
Oh, gosh.
Any questions? I'll wait another 5 minutes.
Yeah,
We have an hour and then
it's
it's over.
This was so fun.
So how do you guys feel after this conversation?
Oh, we have a question.
I feel good.
Would any of you do the competition again? Yes.
Yes.
Are
As
you
long
guys
as I don't
competing
age out.
I know.
We'll see.
I would. I would definitely.
My response is Shakendra's response.
But you guys better compete again.
No, literally the week of, just so much happens. You guys see the glitz and the glam of it. You know, you see us on
Yeah.
the stage just doing our thing and looking all pretty. But there's so, like, we barely sleep. We just are up all day.
That first day.
That
was
first day was exhausting.
Exhausted. And then we woke up the next day
Stressful.
looking fine. I'm like,
That was the favor of the Lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
But yeah, it's a lot. It's a
Mhm.
lot. So I think the further away I get from the experience, the more I'm able to kind of like be open to the idea, but definitely the week of, I was like, this is too stressful.
I think something that needs to be addressed is, we spend months preparing physically. We do the coaching, but we're not preparing ourselves mentally for what we're about to walk in. I can understand for someone who's competing for the first time, you're not really sure about what's going on. But after you have the experience and you're considering competing again, I think the next time that you go in, you have to prepare yourself mentally. You have to know your triggers. You have to know what's triggering your anxiety so that you can manage that, because our anxiety, our stress, that impacts our performances.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
If my coach didn't check me when I had that like social media breakdown, I probably wouldn't have. First of all, I wouldn't have showed up to the competition because I would have been a mess. And then if I did show up, I would have looked a mess because I just would have been so in my head about everything. I wouldn't have performed, like Maxine was saying, like, so you really, really do have to go in like with a strong mentality, or like it's going to really crumble.
Guys, one more question before we cut off. What would you say was the most challenging part of the competition, and what advice would you give to future girls?
My advice is to just be prepared and have fun. And that sounds cliche, but like if you do that, everything literally will be fine. Like if you come and you're not prepared, you're gonna be flustered. You're gonna look around and see people who look like they're prepared, and you're gonna compare yourself. It's gonna be a mess. But if you come in and you're prepared and you have your mental health in check or in check and you're ready to have fun, like you should be fine.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that question goes so well with this conversation that we're having. It's really a mental game because it's life, but in the confined spaces of a pageant, like in life, you should be focusing on your own lane, focusing on what you can do well and doing that excellently, preparing yourself to be better than you were the day before in life. And the same thing applies to the pageant. You know what you're capable of. So you continue to work on that. Also utilize as many resources as you can. Definitely never, ever, 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 if you're competing in a pageant, don't tell yourself like, I could do it by myself. Like I could do it by myself.
No, don't do that.
No, you need all the help you can get. If somebody offers to help, you say yes. Just get the help. And you will not regret it, because the more prepared you feel, like Maxine was saying earlier, the more prepared you feel, the better you'll do on stage. Because when your body is nervous and is, in shock and is just taking in all this information, and again, you're just seeing the girls being cute on stage, but we're thinking so many things. Okay, watch Jeannie at the front with the gloves. Okay, you know what I mean? Things at one time. So your body already knows what to do because you practice. Your brain already knows what to say in the interview. You're gonna perform at your best because you feel prepared. That it's gonna be like automatic to your body.
I would say the same. Be prepared. Plan ahead of time so that there's less stress, and make a list of things that you may need, so that at the closer to the pageant, you're not freaking out. And practice as much as you can. Ask for help, like I mentioned before. Be aware of scammers also. So like ask for help, ask even contestants who would enter a pageant before what it's like, what was their experience, and how you're gonna, do well on stage. But also be mentally prepared and knowing that there is a competition of women, but then you are your own self and you're showing up to represent you, the best version of yourself, the most confident version of yourself. And you should not even look at the girls as your competition. Look at them as people that you can learn from and do well. Because I'm not going to lie, I did learn a lot of things from just observing and watching all the girls around me. That's how you do well, when you don't think of it as a competition itself, even though it is. But you're going there to represent you. Like, this is Maxine, and this is how I'm going to show up, and this is how I'm going to represent myself, and hopefully probably to inspire someone who want to enter a pageant. You know what I mean? That makes sense.
And you'll get so much more out of the experience as a result. Like I definitely see beauty pageants in a whole different light now, because it's really such a growing experience for the individual. It's not just about winning the crown or being it's really so much more than that. Like, all these ladies on this panel have all inspired me to just go after my dreams and just be a better version of myself, So
And also, like with pageantry, it could teach you a different confidence in different areas of your life that you may not even recognize. Like for me, I was weak in like just a little person of my intimate portion. Now I feel more confident to take more control of that.
Yeah.
And that helped me to, maybe if I didn't enter, I don't think I probably would have the balls to, to actually choose or speak up for myself. Get what I'm saying? So yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
I think registering is
Mhm.
like the first step of knowing that, okay, I'm capable of doing this. So if you
Yeah.
are already knowing that you're capable, I think the next step is just knowing who you are and knowing your brand, and everything else should come naturally. But that's where we get nervous. Like, am I good enough? Is my story good enough? Is my brand good enough? So
Yeah.
just being confident in who you are, and that'll take you so far in
Yeah.
in pageantry itself and life.
So good.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we did our hour, guys. I thank you guys so much again for being on this panel. You guys were all amazing. Thank you to my audience, to our audience for joining and engaging. And I hope we can do this again.
Yes,
Yes, of
definitely.
course.
Thank you guys.
I'll make the space. Just let me know.
Of course.
Let us know, Maxine.
All right, guys, don't leave the chat. I'm just going to end the live, okay?
Okay.